Did you ever think we'd live past 30?
Not back then, anyway.
Hell, I miss it. Smoking, the joking with the guys, the adrenaline, the fighting. You okay?
Yeah.
You sure?
The story begins with Mike Banning participating in an intense military training exercise. The scenario is designed to simulate a real combat situation. Mike moves through the building with precision, eliminating every enemy target he encounters along the way. He fights his way through the structure until he finally reaches the exit point. Just as he believes the exercise is over, he suddenly gets shot by his own teammate, Wade Jennings. Another member of the team, Bruno, angrily yells at Mike for tripping him earlier during the drill. Mike fires back, arguing that if they don't make these exercises as realistic as possible, they'll never survive in an actual combat situation once real bullets start flying. After the exercise ends, Mike and Jennings take a walk together and begin discussing future plans. Jennings talks about his private military company, Salient Global, and mentions that Mike is being considered for a major promotion, becoming the next director of the Secret Service. Jennings asks Mike if he could help Salient Global secure a training contract with the government. Mike agrees that he might be able to assist. However, Mike has been quietly dealing with serious health problems. He's been suffering from severe migraines and struggling with sleep issues for quite some time. Even though he has visited several doctors, he has kept these problems hidden from President Trumbull and from his wife, Leah. One doctor even warned him that his physical condition is becoming dangerous and could lead to serious consequences. Between his worsening health and the responsibility of raising their baby daughter, Lynn, Mike isn't very enthusiastic about taking on the demanding position of Secret Service Director. During a White House press conference, President Allan Trumbull speaks to the media about his goals for promoting peace and diplomacy around the world. Standing beside him during the event are Mike Banning and the current Secret Service Director, David Gentry. Not long after the conference, President Trumbull invites Mike to join him and several other agents on a relaxing fishing trip. While the group is out on the lake enjoying the quiet moment, Trumbull takes the opportunity to speak privately with Mike. He officially offers Mike the position of a Secret Service Director. Mike is honored and gladly accepts the offer. However, the peaceful outing quickly turns into chaos. The men suddenly notice something strange in the sky, what appears at first to be a swarm of bats flying toward them. Within seconds, they realize the terrifying truth. The objects are actually weaponized drones. The drones immediately begin firing on the agents below. Explosions erupt across the water as several agents are killed instantly. Realizing the president is the main target, Mike immediately moves to protect him. As the attack intensifies, Mike and Trumbull jump from the boat and dive into the water to avoid being seen by the drones. Mike manages to drag the president to a safer area, but the intense situation overwhelms both of them and they eventually lose consciousness. Both men are rushed to the hospital. President Trumbull suffers severe injuries and falls into a coma, which forces Vice President Kirby to step in as the acting president. Meanwhile, Mike's wife Leah and their baby daughter Lynn rush to the hospital after hearing about the attack, but instead of a reunion, Mike is immediately confronted by FBI agent Helen Thompson. Thompson begins interrogating him, asking whether he had any involvement in the assassination attempt on the president. She reveals that investigators discovered a van used to activate the drone attack, and forensic evidence from inside the vehicle includes traces of Mike's hair and skin cells. Even worse, some of the residue matches materials that were found in Mike's own garage. All of the evidence seems to point directly at him. Mike insists that he's being set up, but Thompson remains skeptical and clearly doesn't believe him. Shortly afterward, Mike is handcuffed, escorted out of the hospital, and taken into federal custody. While Mike is being transported by the escort team, something strange suddenly happens. The vehicles carrying him abruptly lose power and shut down completely. Before the officers can figure out what's happening, a heavily armed hit squad launches an attack. The attackers quickly eliminate the escort team and take Mike with them. However, Mike refuses to go quietly. During the chaos, he fights back against the attackers and manages to cause their vehicle to crash violently into a tree. As the wreckage settles, Mike recognizes one of the men involved in the ambush, Bruno, one of the teammates from the earlier training exercise. This realization immediately makes Mike suspicious that someone from his own circle may be connected to the plot. After grabbing weapons from the fallen attackers, Mike escapes and begins running through the area to avoid capture. When authorities later arrive at the crash site, they find multiple dead bodies scattered around the wreckage. The scene makes it look as if Mike himself killed everyone, which only strengthens the case against him. At the same time, the truth behind the conspiracy begins to unfold. It is revealed that Wade Jennings is actually the mastermind behind the entire attack. He deliberately arranged everything to make Mike look responsible, even going as far as planting Mike's DNA inside the van that was used to trigger the drone assault. Meanwhile, Mike manages to reach a payphone at a gas station and calls his wife Leah to let her know that he is still alive. Unfortunately, the call is quickly traced by Agent Thompson. Leah warns him that their family has already started receiving death threats, making the situation even more dangerous. Before Mike can say much more, the conversation is interrupted when two bounty hunters approach approach him, hoping to capture him and claim the reward that has been offered for his arrest. Mike quickly disarms the two men and steals their truck, using it to escape the area. Soon after, law enforcement spots the stolen vehicle and begins pursuing him, triggering a high-speed chase. Eventually, Mike drives the truck off the road and crashes into the nearby forest, forcing him to abandon the vehicle and continue running through the woods in order to survive. Back in Washington, acting President Kirby begins meeting with top White House officials to discuss the attempted assassination of President Trumbull. During their discussions, they raised the possibility that the Russian government may have been involved in the attack. Soon afterward, Kirby addresses the nation during a press conference. In his announcement, Kirby publicly accuses Mike Banning of participating in the assassination attempt. He claims that Mike secretly worked with Russian operatives and reveals that $10 million was transferred from Russia into an offshore bank account connected to him. Using this claim as justification, Kirby announces that he will hire a private military contractor to help carry out a retaliatory strike. Meanwhile, Mike continues trying to stay alive. After stealing another vehicle, he drives deep into the wilderness to find the one person he believes might help him, his estranged father, Clay Banning. Clay is a former decorated Marine who disappeared from Mike's life years earlier. After abandoning Mike and his mother, Clay chose to live completely off the grid. Mike had eventually managed to track him down and knew where he had been hiding. Clay now lives alone in a remote cabin deep in the woods. When Mike finally arrives, he explains everything that has happened: the drone attack, the accusations against him, and the fact that he's being hunted. Although Mike still carries anger toward his father for leaving the family years ago, Clay listens carefully as his son describes the situation. However, while they are talking, Jennings manages to track Mike's location. He immediately sends a group of armed men to eliminate him. Fortunately, Clay has the area heavily monitored. Using surveillance cameras placed around the property, the Bannings spot the approaching attackers before they reach the cabin. Clay quickly leads Mike into a hidden underground tunnel beneath the property. Clay tells Mike to stay completely still while he prepares a series of traps. He begins detonating explosives placed around the perimeter of the property, setting off one blast after another. The explosions tear through the forest and wipe out Jennings' entire team. When the smoke clears, Mike looks at his father in disbelief, realizing that Clay single-handedly eliminated every one of the attackers. The following morning, Clay turns on a radio, where they hear acting President Kirby's announcement blaming Mike for the assassination attempt. Listening to the broadcast confirms what Mike has already started to suspect. Mike realizes that Wade Jennings is the one who framed him. He calls Jennings directly and confronts him, finally piecing together the true motive behind the entire conspiracy. The plan was never just about killing the president, it was about starting a war. If a major international conflict erupted, Jennings' company Salient Global would receive massive military contracts and profit enormously. After leaving the cabin, Mike and Clay begin driving away from the woods. While stopping at a gas station along the way, Mike hears an update on the radio, reporting that President Trumbull may soon wake up from his coma. Mike immediately understands the danger this creates. If Trumbull wakes up, he could expose the truth, which means Jennings will likely try to eliminate him before that happens. During the drive, Mike also talks to Clay about his wife Leah and their daughter Lynn, explaining everything he stands to lose if he fails. Meanwhile, Agent Helen Thompson and her team arrive at the location where Clay's explosives wiped out Jennings' men. As she examines the scene and the bodies, she begins to reconsider the situation. Based on what she knows about Salient Global's questionable history, she starts to suspect that Mike might actually be innocent. At the same time, Jennings learns that President Trumbull may be waking up. Shortly afterward, he receives a phone call from his employer, acting President Kirby. Kirby orders Jennings to finish the job and ensure that Trumbull never recovers. Following those instructions, Jennings sends a team of men to Mike's home, planning to kidnap Leah and baby Lynn. The attackers manage to grab them and begin forcing them outside. But just as the situation looks hopeless, Clay suddenly appears and kills the kidnappers. After saving them, Clay introduces himself to Leah and explains that he is Mike's father. He admits that he deeply regrets abandoning Mike and his mother years ago. Clay promises Leah that no matter what happens, he will protect both her and Lynn. Meanwhile, Agent Thompson and her partner decide to investigate Salient Global directly. They fly to one of the company's bases to confront Wade Jennings and uncover the truth behind the conspiracy. However, once they arrive and Jennings realizes that they have figured everything out, he eliminates them without hesitation, killing both agents to protect his operation. At the same time, Mike makes his way to the hospital where President Trumbull is being treated. Mike knows that if the president wakes up, he may be able to reveal the truth and stop Jennings' plan. When Mike arrives, security officers try to stop him. Thinking quickly, Mike tricks them and briefly takes one officer hostage so he can move deeper into the building. Just as Mike reaches the upper floors, President Trumbull wakes up from his coma. Mike is quickly apprehended by security, but Trumbull orders the agents to bring Mike to him. Mike immediately explains that he has been framed and that Jennings is responsible for the assassination attempt. Trumbull believes him, knowing that Mike has saved his life many times before and would never betray him. But the danger is far far from over. Mike soon discovers that Salient agents have hacked into the hospital's computer systems. The attackers begin releasing gas into several chambers inside the building. Mike realizes this is only the first step of their plan. They intend to blow up the hospital. Emergency crews begin evacuating the entire building as quickly as possible. Meanwhile, Jennings and his team learn that Mike has already reached the hospital before them. When Jennings and his men finally arrive, a massive gunfight erupts between the Secret Service agents and the Salient mercenaries. During the chaos, Mike helps move President Trumbull to a safer location, while Jennings continues trying to kill both of them. Suddenly, the hospital's ICU wing explodes in a massive blast, causing devastation throughout the building. Although injured, Mike manages to get Trumbull to safety with Director Gentry, then turns around and heads back into the fight. Determined to stop the attackers, Mike begins hunting down the Salient soldiers one by one. He manages to shoot, stab, and eliminate nearly every mercenary inside the hospital. Soon after, a military response team arrives and finishes off the remaining attackers. Seeing the situation falling apart, Jennings attempts to escape using a helicopter, but Mike stops him by blowing the helicopter out of the sky, preventing Jennings from fleeing. With Jennings' escape attempt stopped, the two men finally face each other directly. What follows is a brutal one-on-one confrontation. After an intense struggle, Mike ultimately gains the upper hand and stabs Jennings, leaving him mortally wounded. Jennings collapses and slowly bleeds out, bringing an end to the mastermind behind the conspiracy. After the dust settles, the truth finally comes out. Mike is officially cleared of all accusations as investigators uncover the full extent of the plot. President Trumbull and Director Gentry also discover that acting President Kirby had secretly been working with Salient Global. Once the evidence becomes undeniable, Kirby is escorted out of the White House and placed under arrest. With the crisis finally over, Clay is given the opportunity to reconnect with his family. He is welcomed into Mike's home so he can live with Mike, Leah, and baby Lynn, allowing him to make up for the years he spent away from them. Later on, Mike meets privately with President Trumbull. Mike explains that he feels responsible for what happened and believes he should resign from his position. He admits that he never told the president about his worsening medical problems and worries that he might no longer be capable of protecting him properly. However, Trumbull refuses to hold it against him. The president forgives Mike and tells him that the offer to become director of the Secret Service still stands if he wants it. After everything he has been through, Mike accepts the position. With that, the story comes to a close.